So yeah, as you can tell, we are not in my room right now. No, we are not. We are in the outdoors, which is probably something risky because A, not a lot of people go outside anymore. And two, because, well, knowing how stocky some people can be, they'll probably figure out where I am just by virtue of being outside and, you know, maybe counting some of the landmarks or something. Which is why I try to pick a location that isn't really that determinable. Like, I hope people I actually tried to make sure that the camera angle I use is a little bit more low to the ground. That way you don't look at the sky and stuff. But why am I doing this outside? Well, one, because this is the anime we're about to talk about right now is actually pretty good, and I thought maybe I should do a little something special with it. And in other words, I'm recording right here from the inside of my Toyota Celica 2002. So, yeah, now you know what car I drive. But then again, who doesn't? You know? Anyways, today we're going to be talking about Initial D, an anime from the 90s, as you can tell. Maybe. And, yeah, let's actually get on with this review. So, what's the main catalyst of the show? Well, first off, it takes place, like I said, in the 1990s in the Gunma Prefecture, around the fictional town of Akina. And it basically revolves around one particular racer, which we'll get to first. But first, basically it starts off with a group of street racers called the Akina Speed Stars, which are then challenged by another group of racers from a nearby town called the Akagi Red Suns. So, yeah, long story short, the Speed Stars pretty much don't seem to be in a good shape to accept the challenge of the Speed Stars, and thus, realized they were probably going to need to find someone that can stand toe-to-toe with the Red Suns. However, they then hear a rumor that one of the members of the Red Suns, specifically a guy by the name of Takahashi Keisuke, who apparently was beaten at one point in Mount Akina by some guy who was driving an 8.6. And guess who that guy happens to be? A kid by the name of Takumi Fujiwara. Now why is this important? Well, apparently, Takumi Fujiwara has secretly been delivering tofu up and down the mountain while drifting, so to speak, and basically hasn't told anyone about it. Why? Because apparently the kid's been doing it since he was like age 13. Yeah. By the way, the legal driving age in Japan is 18. So, yeah. So that's a little bit of that's something to keep in mind. It's a little weird how the age of consent in Japan is a lot lower than it is here, but their driving age is a lot higher. And also they're a little bit more strict about it. It kind of makes you think about the priorities of each country. Before we can... Anyways, so pretty much that's the basic catalyst of the whole show. Basically, they try to recruit Takumi to join their team so that he can represent them, and that's pretty much about it. After that, it's just a bunch of people challenging Takumi to a race. However, I will say this: some of the story is pretty dramatic. We got a couple of subplots here and there, and you know what? Some people might hate a couple of characters, some people might love a couple of characters, and it's just it all depends on preference. So pretty much, there aren't really that many characters that I like to put. So really, there are a bunch of characters out there that you can either root for or boo down, depending on who you are. So so right now, I think I'll just only stick to two of the characters that I think I found interesting, or the more recurring characters. Basically, let's start with the main with the first one, Takumi Fujiwara. Now, Takumi, he's not really interested in street racing, even though he does have the chops for it, because, well, he doesn't really see it as something he could do for fun. He really just sees it as, well, a chore. it's kind of like if you say if you know a guy who's really good at washing dishes, like really fast, gets them clean, and then you tell him, hey, you should probably join a dishwashing competition, and you're like, why? It's a chore, not something to do for fun, as you can understand. So yeah, it does take him. So basically, it takes him a little while for him to warm up to the idea. And also because he does it as sort of. Also, the only reason he even knows how to drift is because he's delivering tofu for his dad. Basically, he has to go up and down a mountain while carrying tofu in the back of his his car. Which honestly, and not only that, but if he wanted to do it, but also his dad told him to basically keep a cup of water inside the car, which for a weird thing, I actually do have. Except, I don't think it's not for drifting. That's for sure. Anyway, so yeah, that's probably the reason why he sees it as a chore. Not only that, but a lot of people call him aloof. And considering that he has to keep this a secret, and he does most of the deliveries early morning, we're talking like waking up at 4 a.m. Yeah, that's gonna be a pain in the neck. He's pretty much aloof because of the fact that he doesn't really get much sleep, or at least that's a theory. So, yeah, that's pretty much the first one. The second one is I think has to be his father, because he's sort of, I don't know. I guess I could compare him to my dad, but in a way that he's sort of. It's like he definitely does have the best intentions for Takumi. However, it sometimes seems like he's kind of pushing on his own wishes onto his son. That's something that I found uncomfortable, although I will admit, the guy is a badass. Yeah. He's like, he's a magical dispenser of wisdom, as I guess that's one way of calling him. So, that's pretty much it. Although I will say that one character that I think a lot of people both hate, like to hate, it has to be Itsuki, which is basically Takumi's best friend, because yeah, he's kind of a bit of a charlatan, but he's a well-meaning charlatan, I guess to say. So that's pretty much all the characters I want to mention. There are, of course, more out there, although I will say that the two characters from the Akina Speedstars do kind of get pushed off to the side in later seasons. As for the animation of the show, you gotta remember, this was back in the 90s. Like, Pixar was barely coming out with Toy Story at the time. So, yeah, you can't really expect much in terms of CGI, which they do use for the cars. Basically to show the drifting. And honestly, it's pretty terrible. It's honestly pretty noticeable that they are using CGI. Like, painfully noticeable. However, I will say that hand-drawn animation is done pretty well. I don't think a lot of people would probably like the art style that the mangaka chose for some of the characters, but I think in a way it does work. It's plastic enough so that you can do a variety of expressions, and that's probably a good thing. It does improve later on in different aspects, but I think it really shines in the fourth stage or the fourth season, however you want to call it. As for the music, well, I think it's safe to say that it's good meme fuel. I'll say that. Like, I think by now, if you're wondering where the heck did running in the 90s come from, where did the Deja Vu meme come from? Well, this is where it came from. It came from this anime. However, I will say that they use so many songs that honestly you could pick whichever one you want, and I don't think and if you play it on the radio, I highly doubt anyone would be able to tell that it's from the show. So yeah, honestly, it's like the songs are used as memes nowadays, but it's good. But there are good songs. So I think that's pretty much all I need to say. However, I will say it just does a lot of things right. I mean, sure, the animation may not be the best, but it does enough things right to the point where, honestly, you can say it's pretty influential. Like, it did sort of bring more attention to street drifting, and it did give a lot of attention to street drifting, so much so that it eventually caught on in the United States. And yeah, it appeared on Adult Swim at one point, like in the early Adult Swim. So you can say it's a pretty good. So yeah, it's good enough that it reaches that level of the prestige. Not only that, but I think you could kind of argue that simply the fact that it was able to deliver I could say that maybe it had a little bit of a hand in a certain movie that may have starred a certain guy who used to be a good actor until he was caught in a sex abuse scandal. Yeah, looking at you, Kevin Spacey. You have betrayed us all. You have betrayed us all, man. Seriously. But anyways, yes, I'm talking about Baby Driver, because because drift racing aside, which is basically Baby's specialty, they also managed to sort of sync the music in there. Now, I don't know. Maybe it's just a coincidence that Edgar Wright, has this thing about synchronizing music and sort of having good enough visuals and having a pretty distinct style. But I will go ahead and say that you could argue that maybe one of the stunt choreographers had a little bit of inspiration from Initial D. Because think about it, you could probably choose any other type of racing style. Like you could probably choose rally style or whatever, but they chose to go with drifting. They chose to go with the type of drifting that you typically see in a lot of the Japanese racing movies, like something like I said, it looks a lot like something that you'd see from the anime. It's stylish enough to sort of make the connections. And that's pretty much all I have to talk about the show. What I'd rank it? I'd rank it at a 4 out of 5. Unfortunately, the animation kind of bogs it down a little bit. But, yeah, I'd say if you have the chance to watch it, watch it. It's a pretty good show. And I will guarantee you that you will sort of have a bit more of an appreciation for driving than maybe you used to have. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I have. Now, if you excuse me, I need to go do a delivery. Now, okay. Apple! Come on, here you go. Here you go. Apple. Come on, buddy. Yeah. There you go. Stay. Yeah, I don't know how he manages to. I was just driving and suddenly I found out he escaped from the house. I have no idea how he manages to. I don't know how he does it. He's like Houdini, I tell you. So, anyways, this is me saying thank you for being smart. Sayonara.